A photograph is a captured ghost, a moment of light and shadow, stolen from time and preserved on silvered glass. My job is to give these ghosts a new life, to shepherd them from the fragile past into the digital forever. I am an archivist at the city's historical society, a quiet custodian of moments that are not my own. Last week, we received a new collection from the estate of the old Hawthorne family, one of the city's founders. It was a treasure trove, dozens of daguerreotypes and fragile glass plate negatives from the 1850s to the early 1900s. My task was to digitize them at the highest possible resolution, preserving every crack, every faded detail. I started with a street scene from the 1860s, a busy marketplace filled with people in stiff, formal attire. The original photo was small, the faces in the crowd a blur. But on my high-resolution scanner, they came to life. I zoomed in, checking the focus. And that's when I saw him for the first time, a face in the crowd. He was a man with pale skin and dark, impossibly sad eyes. He wasn't posing. He was looking directly at the camera. It was his gaze that was so unsettling. It felt contemporary, aware. I dismissed it as a curious anomaly and moved on. The next photo was a family portrait from the 1880s, taken 20 years later, a happy family on their porch. I scanned it, and again, I zoomed in to check the details. My blood ran cold. He was there again. Peeking from behind the large oak tree in the background was the same man, the same pale face, the same sad eyes. He hadn't aged a single day. The same suit, the same timeless sorrow in his expression. A knot of unease tightened in my stomach. This wasn't a coincidence. I began to hunt for him. I pulled out another plate from the collection, a wedding photograph from 1895, a crowd of smiling guests. And there he was, standing amongst the wedding party, slightly out of focus but undeniably him, looking right at the camera. I felt a growing obsession. I spent the rest of the day scanning image after image, my heart pounding with a mix of fear and discovery. A photo of the new city hall being built in 1905. The man was a face in a window across the street. A photo of a boating party on the lake in 1872. He was a silent figure on the distant shore. Always the same, never aging, and always looking directly into the lens with those haunting eyes. It started to feel less like he was looking at the long-dead photographer, and more like he was looking at me, as if he knew that over a century later, someone would be looking back, as if he was waiting to be seen. I felt a sudden, professional need to understand. This wasn't just a ghost. This was a historical impossibility. I left the scanner and went to the physical archive that came with the photos. It included a few old family journals. I found the diary of the first photographer in the family, a man named Silas Hawthorne. I opened the brittle, leather-bound book. His entries were mostly technical notes about exposure times and chemical processes. But then I found it. An entry from 1868, the handwriting frantic and shaky. It described a problem he was having with his photographs. "A pale man," he wrote. "He attends every photograph I take, but he is never there in person when I look up from my camera." I continued to read, my breath catching in my throat. His eyes seemed to see me through the lens itself. I fear he is not just a witness to the moments I capture. I fear he is some kind of collector. The journal entry ended with a final, chilling sentence that made the hairs on my arm stand on end. "He is a ghost in their glass, and I believe that when he has collected enough moments, he will step out of the photograph and into my home." The journal fell from my hands, its aged pages whispering as they hit the floor. I wasn't going crazy. Silas Hawthorne had seen him too. A collector. The word sent a shiver down my spine. This wasn't just a passive spirit. It was an entity with a purpose. My task was no longer just to preserve these images. It was to understand the ghost trapped within them. I turned back to my high-resolution scanner. My mission changed. I was no longer an archivist. I was an investigator. The photographs were not just records of the past. They were a 50-year-long crime scene, and I was the only detective on the case. I started looking for a pattern. Was he always near a certain person, a specific building? I spent hours cross-referencing. I realized he didn't appear at random. He appeared in photographs charged with powerful, raw emotion. A wedding, a funeral, the christening of a ship, the aftermath of a fire. He was drawn to moments of intense human feeling. As I stared at one photo, a winter scene from 1888, my office, usually a stable 20 degrees Celsius, suddenly grew cold. I could see my own breath fog in the air, a white plume in the glow of the monitor. The chill was so profound, it felt like it was radiating from the image itself. I clicked to the next image, a crowded summer marketplace, and for a fleeting moment, I heard it. The faint, distant murmur of a crowd. The sounds and feelings of these captured moments were starting to bleed through the screen. The glass was becoming a window. I knew I had to look closer. I pulled up the highest resolution scan I had, a formal portrait of the Hawthorne family from 1890. The pale man was there, of course. He was standing in the reflection of a large window behind the family. I pushed the magnification on my software to its absolute limit, zooming in on the reflection of the man's face. The image became a landscape of pixels and digital noise. I focused on his dark, sorrowful eyes, enhancing the image again and again. And then I saw it. In the tiny, microscopic reflection within the ghost's own eye, I saw something impossible. It wasn't the reflection of the 19th century room. It was the distorted, wide-eyed reflection of my own face. My own face staring back at me from across a century, captured in the eye of a ghost. The connection was real. He was watching me, right now. A wave of pure terror, cold and sharp, washed over me. I jumped back from the screen, my heart hammering in my chest. I had to stop this. I tried to delete the file. The system asked for confirmation. I clicked yes. The file vanished. For a moment, I felt relief. And then, with a soft chime from my computer, the file icon reappeared on my desktop. I tried again, dragging the file to the trash bin. The result was the same. It simply returned, defiant. My fear was turning to a cold dread. I opened the image in my editing software. I would erase him manually. I selected the clone stamp tool, my hand shaking as I sampled a piece of the background and clicked to paint over his pale face. The moment I clicked, my computer screen went black. The entire system crashed. The room was plunged into silence. I rebooted the machine, my hands slick with sweat. When the desktop finally loaded, I slowly opened the image file one more time. The image was there, but it had changed. The pale man was no longer in the background. He was now standing closer to the family. He was in sharper focus, and the look of profound sadness in his eyes was gone. It had been replaced by a look of cold, quiet, and profound annoyance. He knew what I had tried to do. I shut down the computer. I couldn't fight him in the digital world. He was stronger there. I had to go back to the source, the physical object. I went to the climate-controlled vault and retrieved the original glass plate negative of the Hawthorne family portrait. I held it up to the light, my hands in their soft cotton gloves. I examined every inch of the fragile artifact. And then I saw it. On the back of the glass plate, right behind the ghost's figure, was a tiny, almost invisible scratch. It wasn't damage. It was deliberate. I took a magnifying glass and leaned in closer, my heart pounding. Etched into the glass with a fine, sharp needle was a single, spidery word. It was a word that felt like a curse. Hungry. The word was a key, unlocking a new, more terrifying understanding of what I was dealing with. I had thought of him as a witness, a sad, passive ghost. I was wrong. A witness just watches. A predator waits. It wasn't just drawn to emotion. It was feeding on it. Weddings, funerals, disasters, a feast of human feeling. And I, with my high-resolution scanner and digital enhancements, was not just observing it. I was serving it a banquet. Each sharpened pixel, each restored detail, made the window through time clearer, making it easier for it to feed. Silas Hawthorne's fear wasn't just paranoia. The ghost was trying to get out. My work was helping it. I had to stop it. But how do you fight a ghost made of light and memory? A ghost that lives inside the very concept of a photograph. I dove back into Silas Hawthorne's journals, but this time I wasn't looking for sightings. I was looking for a weapon. I searched for any mention of folklore, of a ritual, of any attempt he made to fight back against his collector. I found it in his final, barely legible entry, written the day before he died of a sudden heart failure. He believed the creature was intrinsically linked to the photographic process itself, the flash of light, the captured emotion. He theorized that to starve it, he needed to expose it to an emotion it couldn't consume, a photograph of true, absolute silence. He had planned to create a final, empty plate, exposing the most powerful negative to a blank surface in a ritual of quiet intent. He believed it would trap the entity, not by destroying it, but by giving it nothing to feed on. He died before he could try. I now knew what I had to do. I had to finish the work of a man who had been dead for over a century. I returned to the archive late that night. The air was cold and heavy. The silence was different. It was a listening, hungry silence. The screens of my computers flickered with static. I could hear faint whispers coming from the darkroom speakers. It knew. It sensed my purpose, and it was fighting back, its presence a heavy weight in the room. I took the glass plate from the 1890 family portrait, the one where the ghost now looked annoyed and was closest to the foreground. I could feel a cold aura radiating from it, a silent pressure against my gloved hands. I placed it carefully into the enlarger, but instead of photographic paper, I placed a fresh, undeveloped silver plate beneath it. A perfect, blank slate, a mirror of nothing. My heart was pounding. I focused all my will, all my intent on the feeling of this archive, its peace, its silence, its purpose of quiet remembrance. I thought of a silence so profound it had no echo. I took a deep breath, and I hit the exposure button. A single brilliant flash of pure, clean white light filled the dark room. For a moment, I heard a silent, psychic scream in my mind. The pressure in the room vanished. The whispers stopped. The cold dissipated. I developed the new plate with shaking hands. As the image slowly appeared in the chemical bath, I saw it. The ghost was still there, a faint, ethereal outline. But he was different. He was no longer looking at me. His sad eyes were now staring inward, into the blank, silvery void of his new prison. He was no longer a predator. He was just a photograph again, a captured ghost, pacified and contained. My job is different now. I am not just an archivist who preserves the past. I am a guardian. I watch over the fragile moments, the captured ghosts, and I protect our world from the ones that are still hungry. It makes you wonder. Every old photograph holds a secret, a captured moment of life. But what else does it hold? What silent witnesses are looking back at you from your own family albums, patiently waiting to be seen? If you believe some stories deserve to be remembered, leave a like. It feeds the good ghosts and keeps the hungry ones at bay. And subscribe, because there are many forgotten collections in this archive, and I need help standing guard.